Hi, everybody. This is Jim Tolles. I blog regularly at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. And today I want to talk about the difference between psychic awareness and spiritual awareness. A lot of people who have a lot of psychic awareness kind of immediately assume that they also have the spiritual awareness because they can see auras or they can receive messages from the spirit plane and different levels of awareness around that. But really, to me, it's a tool. And what the spiritual awareness is a responsibility and understanding of how to use a tool. So for instance, if I have a hammer, I can do a lot of different things with it. But if I don't understand what its purpose is, I can also use it inappropriately. This happens a lot with psychics who can just immediately read what somebody else is feeling or kind of have a sense of what they're thinking and just blurt it out. And so it's like somebody just went into somebody else's closet, took out a bunch of stuff that was really embarrassing, showed it to everybody. It's like, look at this. And that can elicit a lot of people who are just really upset with them all the time, and then they don't really understand why is everyone upset with me, because this is just what I could tell this person was not happy about the relationship with their mother. And so they don't know what to do with that, and yet they have all this awareness, and they also don't necessarily understand the space. And I'm speaking towards the psychics out there, and I'm definitely one of them. I don't talk about it a lot. To me, I see psychic as part of a continuum, where everybody has an intuitive inner knowing, and that to me is part of the psychic continuum. And like the more developed it is and more aware, like the more people get a senses of other people and what's going on with them. And the more you feel interconnected energetically, and you can kind of feel emotions and things in the room, right? So these are different layers that you go out with the psychic awareness. It usually gets funneled into this only fortune telling sort of an idea that we had from a lot of people who are doing that sort of work, on those 900 numbers for many years. Maybe they're still going on. I don't know. I really just ignore them. And I think, letting go of this idea that this is just a superstitious thing or a fortune teller thing would really help most people. Because being a psychic is an amazing gift, too. But you have to understand how to use it. And that's where the spiritual awareness comes in. Spiritual awareness brings integrity around that tool. It says, I have a hammer and it's meant for hitting nails. I have the awareness of maybe what somebody else is feeling in the room, but I have the integrity to know when I should say something and when I should just be mindful of their space, and to have a sense of like, this is what's happening, but I have no need to say anything about it. And it's such an important thing to know that. And this goes to other different things where some people they're just very aware of spirits and different energies or whatnot that are going to be in a house, in a room, in a place. And sometimes they can communicate with them. And that, because of our society, which doesn't know how to deal with any of this sort of stuff, freaks everybody out. And then the person is trying to shut it down and block it out, but that doesn't really stop them from having that gift. Another one of my favorite metaphors or similes, I suppose, right, to be grammatically accurate. It's, being a psychic is like having a left arm. This is what you have right here. This is your left. This is my left arm, and for me to say that I don't have this arm is ridiculous. And to try and live and deny it, is absurd. And then it runs into things because it's still here waving about doing stuff. It's like, no, I don't have a left arm. And that's the same for most psychics. To try and deny this, it's like denying you have a left arm. And as I said, like to me, this is part of a continuum. So ultimately, everybody has this tool. It's like a muscle that just over time and practice gets better and better. Some people are naturally gifted and kind of come with that abilities already kind of working, and they don't know what to do with it or how to control it. And it really scares people. And I spend a number of sessions and emails with people just calming them down. It's okay. This is actually a very normal thing. It's been around forever. It's had different names. Usually, like psychics that were appreciated, especially in the Bible, were called prophets, right? They could foresee different things coming and they would share this wisdom. And they weren't always necessarily treated well. Being a prophet, often means you're bringing bad news. So that's a different way to look at the same thing and to have appreciation that it's always been around. It's not a new thing. So cultivating spiritual awareness, what does that mean for this tool? A lot of it just starts with, like I said, getting comfortable with this and accepting it. It's like, oh, this is something that I have. This is something I can do. I have this awareness. That really is step one, because most people are already stuck in their heads. They're so scared, just so scared to admit this, because I think they're going to be labeled as crazy, or put in a psych ward or some ridiculous thing like that. But, I think parts of our society anyway are moving away from that sort of knee-jerk reaction. I think other parts probably aren't, and I understand why some people have kind of hidden these talents away, but you can't hide them from yourself. Like, if nothing else, you have to accept them in your own space. How much you tell other people about the awareness that you have, that's up to you. And that's another space where we learn to be mindful, right? So we don't start blurting out to the world like, I have all these different things, if you're not ready for the consequences of saying, this is the awareness that I have and this is how I'm sharing it. So just coming into that deeper acceptance for yourself is so critical. You got to let go for pretty much anything on the spiritual path, looking for external validation for anything, whether it's psychic awareness or whether it's, how smart you want to be or, how good of an athlete you are, because everybody's always going to have different opinions. I mean, look at like LeBron James and NBA basketball. That man has had more nasty, horrible things said about them by people that don't even know who he is, of course, right? About his athletic ability and his ability to be a champion and whatnot. And even after winning the NBA championship, he's still going to get it. And on all these comparisons to Michael Jordan and on and on and on and it'll go. Right? So he can't look for his external validation there because there's always going to be plenty of people who will not like him for whatever reason. And the same thing will go with being psychic or spiritual or whatever label or way of knowing yourself that you may have. So you have to let go of that level of seeking externally, right? And so now you're starting to see kind of the general theme that I talk about a lot. It's like letting go of the external dependency of trying to get something from someplace else. The most important part will be starting to explore and it's kind of self-validate, I suppose, which is a weak form of self-love, right? So we'll just start with self-validate. Say it's like, okay, it's okay to be psychic. And it's important that I start to understand these tools because it also helps me stay healthy because a lot of psychics are really open energetically. And since they're feeling everything in the room, they're also taking it on. A lot of psychics will just end up having lots of stuff kind of stuck in them. Think of this like water, okay? So if like the water source is really open to multiple tributaries, multiple things are filling it up with their different stuff. And so there's a way that we learn to filter things. So filtering is currently my favorite metaphor around this because you don't want to block out the world and you're not going to be able to because we're part of this world. And even if you were to like go live in a cave somewhere, you would still be interacting with the world on some level. And there will be good energy days and bad energy days depending on what wind was blowing there. But filtering out the different things, and I often talk about having visualizations around that for psychics to just imagine it's a filter. Maybe it's a Brita filter, right? Just imagine that water image, right? So other things come through the Brita filter and filter down, and it cleans out the impurity, so you're not taking on other people's stuff, which is a big, big issue. And there's a lot of aspects of being psychic and having that awareness that I could talk about. But really, I just kind of wanted to bring your attention to this initial thing around being psychically aware and being spiritually aware, and an important difference there, because just because you have the tools doesn't mean you really know how to use them or are using them in integrity. And if you're not using them in integrity, that can get you into some trouble for yourself energetically and what you absorb all the times from other people, as well as what you're projecting out there and creating with other relationships with people who may not be ready to hear certain things about themselves. Spiritual wellness, spiritual awareness, and building those practices within yourself in meditation and journaling and knowing yourself, knowing your space, brings that awareness, that integrity, that responsibility to be with this tool together so that it's much easier, first of all, to be in your own space and then to kind of work through the world and share appropriately and, be still when there's no need to say anything. So these are some initial thoughts about psychic awareness and spiritual awareness. I hope they're helpful, and you can always find me at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. Once again, I'm Jim Tolles. I hope you're having a beautiful day.